Lumen Field Stadium, home of the NFL Seattle Seahawks, the MLS Seattle Sounders, and the NWSL Seattle Reign, is located just a few blocks away from the heart of Seattle and is an absolute staple to the Emerald City. I had the pleasure of visiting Washington recently, and having landed in Seattle and being a massive stadium enthusiast, I simply couldn't pass up the opportunity to visit one of the most iconic stadiums in America. Now, upon making this video, I came to the realization that I've never really explained why I do this or ever gave a proper introduction to these types of videos. Well, I'm a massive football fan, or soccer as you'd call it in the States, and have gone to many games with my father and the rest of my family for as long as I could remember. And one of the main impressions I would leave with every time, besides the game itself, was the stadium. I would be fascinated by the design and the atmosphere it provided. Fast forward to today, not only do I still enjoy those same things, but I'm now much more aware and in turn more appreciative of what went into the design, the architectural elements and features, and what it offers to enhance the experience of those who attend. All over the world, especially in Latin America as well as Europe, a city's main stadium encapsulates the identity of the city itself. And I'm a firm believer that a city's stadium tells you a lot about the culture of that city and is an overall reflection of their community. Now, that may be more apparent in places outside of the US because the stadiums are located within the city and are more accessible, whereas a lot of the stadiums in the US are more on the outskirts with massive parking lots surrounding them, making it harder to get to without driving many miles and being stuck in traffic, car dependency being a major problem in most US cities. However, with all that being said, that is not the case for Lumen Field in Seattle. I came to find out Seattle is a very walkable city, and Lumen Field is incredibly accessible to its public. As mentioned earlier, it is a staple in the Seattle community and can be viewed from pretty much anywhere in the city, whether you're at the world's famous Space Needle or at the piers near Pike's Marketplace. Lumen Field Stadium has a seating capacity of about 68,740 spectators. At an approximate cost of about $360 million, construction began in the year 2000 and ended in 2002, which seems pretty impressive for a stadium of this magnitude, but then again, I'm no architect or construction worker, so that just may be a standard time frame. Since funding for the construction was approved by voters in a statewide election during the late 90s, the owners of this stadium is actually the Washington State Public Stadium Authority. Now, the owner of the Seahawks, Paul Allen, was closely involved in the design process with the designers Ellerby Beckett, LMN Architects, Streeter and Associates, and the contractors being the Turner Construction Company. The stadium was officially inaugurated on July 7, 2002, and opened as Seahawks Stadiums until 2004, where it was changed to Qwest Field for 7 years, and then later changed to what most fans have known it to be for quite some time, CenturyLink Field. However, in 2021, it was renamed to what we know it to be as of the making of this video, Lumen Field Stadium. The tour started inside the team store, located on the west side of the stadium off Occidental Avenue. I came a bit early, so I had time to chop it up with other tourists and walk around the shop. I initially wanted to wear some Texas gear like my Houston Texans JJ Watt jersey or a Houston Dynamo jersey, but I didn't want to get picked on the entire tour, so I didn't. I did, however, to my surprise, meet some fellow Houstonians there who had just moved into Seattle. Being big sports fans, they also decided to take a tour of Lumen Field. Small world. And there's me waving at the camera. Hello, everybody. Now, I don't normally buy things at team stores simply because things are pretty expensive for the most part, and I'm not exactly balling out as of right now. However, I did buy some tiny souvenirs to give out to 2 of my subscribers that like and share this video. I'll give further information regarding that at the end of the video, so please stay tuned. And here is the latest Seattle Sounders FC jersey as of the making of this video. I really like them, but if you tell me that you don't because they look like pajamas, well, I couldn't really argue with you on that one. And here is the latest secondary Seattle Reign jersey, and it looks pretty clean. I hadn't mentioned this before, but I love the play on words used for the women's team Seattle Reign, Reign being spelled R-E-I-G-N, in a very rainy city like Seattle. And here, if we have a look, we'll see the old Seattle Sounders logo, which I am a sucker for older vintage logos, so I for sure like this emblem better. No denying the new one is sleeker in design and more modern, but I just like the older retro look better.
We should probably tell you no videotaping here at an NFL.
So, as we're getting ready to start the tour, they informed us all that any video recording would not be allowed at any point of the tour, unfortunately. This really rubbed me the wrong way because they mentioned it was an NFL rule that prohibits video recordings of stadium tours, but I've definitely been to other NFL stadium tours and wasn't told that. Now, I don't know if the Denver Broncos are just cooler, but they allowed it, so it caught me off guard that they told me I couldn't. I don't like making videos with just pictures because one, it feels very juvenile, like I'm just making and presenting a video project for middle school. Secondly, I feel like it seems lazy. And lastly, I just feel like you get more from video footage than still pictures. In my opinion, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 1,000,000. So I apologize to any of my subscribers or anyone watching this video hoping to get video footage of Lumen Field. Again, very annoying to not be able to record. However, this is their home, therefore their rules, and I have to respect that. So from here on out, it will just be pictures for this tour. To start off the tour, we walked through the Hall of Legends where they commemorate legendary players of the Seahawks, and we were told that it's not uncommon to see some of the older players that aren't as recognizable to the general public walking within the crowd on game days. Another thing they mentioned was that their slogan is Home of the 12th, and this is because the stadium gets so loud that they refer to their fans as the 12th man. So much so that the jersey number 12 is retired in honor of the fans. Now, I don't know a lot about American football, but I am from Texas. So just as I was wondering, hey, isn't that a Texas A&M thing? The tour guides mentioned that there have been a lot of legal troubles since that is the trademark of Texas A&M. So the Seattle Seahawks just used the term 12 or the 12s instead of the 12th man now. Then I did some research and found out that in 2016, the Seahawks paid Texas A&M about $140,000 for limited rights on the term. This really goes to show you how much they care about their fans because my initial thought was, why not just get a new slogan? So not only were they the first pro sports team to retire a jersey number for the fans, but they also paid a great amount for their beloved slogan towards the fans. So major props to the Seattle Seahawks and how they treat their fans. As we kept walking, they directed our attention to these 3 large pieces of artwork on the wall. Once the stadium was finished being built, they gave the blueprints for the stadium to a well-known artist in the Seattle area. That artist then created these paintings on the blueprints, and they now hang inside of these halls, which in my opinion elevates the sense of community that much more and is a pretty cool tidbit. Next up, we went through a hall that commemorates all of the artists that have performed at Lumen Field. Every artist that performs here gets a personalized jersey that they sign and goes up on this hallway. A lot of performers have passed by here, and since I couldn't record, I'm sure there are a lot I left out, but I included the ones I found noteworthy, mainly Latino artists for my Spanish followers, as well as some bands and rappers that I particularly like. Something that I found curious was that Taylor Swift had actually performed here not too long ago for her Eras tour, but she refused to sign a jersey. I'm not exactly sure why, but it doesn't really surprise me because she doesn't seem like the most down-to-earth person. Although I'm sure there's also a very valid reason for not doing so, so please don't come after me, Swifties. And here's a Metallica signed jersey, which was pretty cool because Metallica is one of my favorite bands of all time. As we walk out of that hallway, we passed by a couple halls that have some notable achievements of the Seattle Seahawks, as well as some legendary players and their jersey numbers. I know this is a bit sinful to say because I'm at one of their greatest stadiums of all time, but I'm not a massive American football fan. I try to keep up with the NFL, but I'm not like a diehard fan that keeps up with every statistics on every team, so I apologize about that. So, in my research for this video, I found out that the Seahawks have won 3 NFC championships, one in 2005 versus the Carolina Panthers, one in 2013 versus the San Francisco 49ers, and one in 2015 against the Green Bay Packers. And to my surprise, the Seattle Seahawks have only won 1 Super Bowl in 2014, and ironically, it was against the Denver Broncos. So sorry to any Denver Broncos fans that subscribed after my previous video of Empire Field at Mile High. I didn't mean to bring back any bad memories. We weren't able to go to the Seattle Seahawks locker room, which is to be expected because most tours don't offer that, but we were able to see the Seattle Sounders locker room, which honestly surprised me with how small it seemed, but we are talking about an MLS team, so maybe that is the standard size of a club's locker rooms here. I'm not sure. Regardless, we didn't really spend as much time here as I would have liked, but I did get to see some of the lockers of some notable players like the Roldan brothers, Rui Diaz, and Joao Paulo. Lumen Field is one of the more environmentally friendly stadiums in all of the US, and in terms of just solar energy, nobody beats it. There are about 3,750 solar panels covering about 2.5 acres connected to the convention center's roof. This provides them with about 830,000 kilowatt of electricity annually, enough to power 95 Seattle homes for an entire year. Pretty impressive stuff. And there in the back, in case you're wondering, you can see the Seattle Manor Stadium, T-Mobile Park. One thing that was said, which I found super cool, is that the stadium isn't just one solid piece. It is broken up into parts that are connected by these strong, thick, rubber-like curtains. And the reason for this is that since Seattle sits on a fault line, the possibility of earthquakes damaging the stadium raised concerns. Therefore, they made the stadium more flexible and more resistant to vibrations and movements, which is a pretty solid feat of engineering in my opinion. And now, the moment I was waiting for this whole time. Going to the south end of the stadium to view the Hawk's Nest or Roaring Nest, however you want to call it, in between the massive arches and Seattle's beautiful skyline in the background. Truly some spectacular views. The pitch, although it's artificial grass, looks absolutely amazing. I can only imagine how electric the atmosphere must be here for games. Speaking of atmosphere, Lumen Field is known to be one of, if not the loudest stadiums in the NFL. This is partly due to how the stadium is built. The design allows for sound to be trapped at field level, which is why there are so many stories of players and coaches barely being able to hear each other during games. In fact, Seahawks fans have claimed the Guinness World Record for loudest crowd roar at an outdoor stadium on 2 occasions, once in 2013 at 136.6 decibels, and the second in 2014 at 137.6 decibels. And it doesn't stop there. In fact, fans have gotten so wild at Lumen Field that it has recorded 2 seismic activities, one in 2011 with Marshawn Lynch's iconic Beastquake run against the New Orleans Saints that caused the equivalent of a magnitude 2 earthquake, and one in 2023 during one of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour concert that registered the equivalent of a 2.3 magnitude earthquake. Those Swifties are no joke. After spending some time on the south end admiring how gorgeous the stadium is, we made our way down to the press box and media room, seeing the docks next to the stadium as well as the beautiful Seattle skyline once more. I'm sure living in these apartments literally right next to the stadium must be pretty sweet, but I can't even begin to imagine how expensive that must be. On our way down the halls, there was a lot of memorabilia from the Seahawks and the Sounders, but since I am a massive football fan, I gravitated more towards the Sounders portraits. Here you have one of the greatest players in U.S. men's national team history, as well as their greatest goal scorer, Clint Dempsey. Here you have a Sounders OG with Freddie Montero, amazing player. Here you got Osvaldo Alonso, as well as the Uruguayan international Nicolás Lodeiro, amazing player as well. As we kept walking down the hall, we saw more portraits like Roldan celebrating a goal, Obafemi Martin's iconic backflip celebration, as well as a U.S. men's national Jordan Morris. Here's Casamigos Tequila Bar for Delta Sky Club members. No tequila samples, sadly. And finally, we reached the press box and got a nice view of the field from the commentator's perspective. With all due respect to the tour guides, I found the information being said here to be a bit mundane, so I'll take the time now to mention to those who may not already know that Lumen Field will in fact be one of the host stadiums for the 2026 World Cup, which is incredibly exciting for the city of Seattle, and I couldn't think of a more perfect city for a sporting event of that magnitude than this one. Very welcoming people, great public transportation, and an amazing venue like Lumen Field. With that being said, the field is going through some renovations in order to comply with FIFA's regulations. The major one for starters is the grass. FIFA doesn't allow artificial grass for their venues, so Lumen Field is going to undergo a complete field transformation. When those renovations begin, I'm not quite sure, but since the World Cup is going to take place 2 years of the time of making of this video, I'm sure the process will start fairly soon. As we made our way out of the press box, we passed some more Sounders memorabilia of them lifting up some championships, the Seattle Sounders being a very successful MLS team with 2 MLS Cup championships, 4 US Open Cup winners, and their most recent title at the time of making of this video, the highly coveted CONCACAF Champions League in the 2021-2022 season. Afterwards, we went to where the players and coaches give their press conferences. Pretty standard room, and honestly not much to be said. I only added it in here so I wouldn't get fined. Last but certainly not least, we made our way onto the field via the players' tunnel, which was really cool. I can't imagine the hype and all of the tension the players feel as they make their way onto the center stage while thousands of people go crazy in the stands. I feel like I always say this every time I go through the players' tunnel, but it really must be an unreal experience, which is why I emphasize it so much. As we made our way onto the edge of the field, I was pretty disappointed that we weren't allowed to step foot on it, especially since it's artificial grass. However, they may know something we don't, and it is their house, so again, I have to respect it. Denver Broncos let us enjoy the field, just saying. Shout out to Empire Field at Mile High. Putting all that aside, wow, let me tell you, the stadium is even more beautiful at ground level. It is truly amazing. One interesting thing about the artificial grass is that unlike other stadiums that use it, there are no breaks in it, meaning it is all just one massive seamless patch of artificial grass, which is really impressive, but honestly makes it kind of a shame that they will have to remove it. Can't imagine how difficult that will be, but I did hear that they will reinstall it after the World Cup happens. Now, whether they will use the same patch of artificial grass or if they will use an entirely different one, and if they do use a different one, what will they do with the old one? All those questions I don't have an answer to, and nobody really seems to know as of right now. Well, that pretty much concludes the tour of this beautiful stadium known as Lumen Field. To recap, this stadium truly is a work of art. My only two quote unquote negatives, even though they're just preferences really, are that it is an open air stadium, so you are exposed to the elements, and it uses artificial grass. Very small things regardless, and honestly, this is up there in my favorite stadiums that I visited. I don't like ranking stadiums because I believe each has their own pros and cons as well as their own unique identity. However, if we are talking just my personal favorites, I would put this up there as second, honestly. Dallas Cowboys AT&T Stadium taking first spot for right now. And sorry, Broncos, you guys had the better tour, but Lumen Field is kind of a masterpiece. And like I mentioned earlier, I did buy some small souvenirs at the team store to give away to any of my subscribers. I'll leave further instructions in the description below, but to summarize, like this video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Then share this video to your Instagram and make sure you tag me. I'll leave my Instagram tag below as well. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you later.